cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Hey, but you are so money and you don't even know it.
I understood that reference.
Morning, Mr. Hammond.
Your mission.
Should you accept it? Steal, destroy, shadow, disappear.
Assemble the team.
And here we go.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to FreeWheeling Fridays on the Madness Comic Network. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote Channel. It's good to be here. It's good to see you. And apparently our producers had a interesting idea to put the subtitles on in the intro to this show. But hey, for those of you who may be hard of hearing or hard of seeing, when you have subtitles on, it may help. So I understand that. All good. And we appreciate all the producers and the editors who put that intro together for us. Appreciate every single one of you. You're so money, you just don't even know it, as we say at the top of the show. But without any further ado, please welcome our guest for this week's episode of FreeWheeling Fridays. Tim TK is in the building. Hello, Tim. How are you, good sir?
Hello, I'm good, Ryan. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. It's good to have you here, Tim TK. Now, if you have any questions for this awesome, tacular individual, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Be monitoring that as they come in. And also, if you're watching us live or on a replay, thank you so much for doing that. But do not forget to like and share this video with all of your closest friends. We really, really appreciate it. So good things, good things. So without any further ado, Tim TK, how or when were you introduced to the world of comics?
In vitro.
Oh boy, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, probably because both my parents were comic readers. I more so got into it in early childhood, sometime around elementary school, between 5 and 8. Scrambled around the house and found a collection of funny-looking pictures with words under my like a bed or couch somewhere, and picked up a couple issues of like old Action Comics and X-Men and like a few other things in there, and kind of immediately started into reading that because it was easier with ADHD than sitting down to read a book for school, and haven't put them down since, really.
Wow, that's all right. Since the very beginning,
Yeah.
but fantastic stuff. And you mentioned Action Comics. Correct me if I'm wrong. Action Comics is the iconic title that featured the man himself, Superman, on the cover. Did it not?
Yes. Yeah.
So I take it you're a Superman fan.
A little bit. I've kind of fallen away in some years just because
That's okay.
More so I'm an X-Men Cable fan. Like Cable,
Nice.
Yeah. But I do love Supes. I think that if you're one of those people who thinks that Superman is a boring character, you don't get the plot, the point of it. And I think also, in particular, like we kind of talked about this in our pre-show, but in a world where I feel like we are constantly being thrown more and more grim, dark content, having a superhero who is like, I'm going to be something that's good and hopeful, it feels like a breath of fresh air sometimes.
No, I can totally understand that. I understand. I've read some of the Action comics here and there. Nothing really big or substantial with regards to certain runs of the character. But when they came out not too long ago with Action Comics 1000, the big celebration that happened some years ago, I got the big giant issue, and then I got one of the alternate covers, or variant covers, I should say. And those are really cool. I thought they did a really good job in celebrating 1,000 issues of Superman. I thought that was a great, respectful tribute to not just the people who put it together, but also Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who created this character that we love and care about so much. And you did mention something about the character of Superman being, some people may think he's boring, dull, doesn't really have any layers to him. Let me give you an example. And this is something outside of the comic book runs. There's lots to choose from. I'm not saying there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you go to your local comic shop, talk to the people there, that's a great way to get started. But another thing is that if you really want to understand the character of Clark Kent and maybe some of Kal-El and the struggles that he has as a person, as a character, watch the TV series Smallville. Because Smallville is 10 seasons, 218 episodes, currently streaming on Hulu/Disney Plus. # not a sponsor of this show. But I got to tell you, Smallville, because of the show, it made me respect and appreciate and understand more how relatable this character is. Because a lot of people have said over the years, oh, he's a Boy Scout. He's he's true blue this and whatever. He doesn't really do anything. No. You got to read some of the certain runs of the comics for sure. And the other thing is watch Smallville, because it's such a great example of peeling back the layers of a character that you may not know a whole lot about, but also getting to the core of what makes that character who he is. So I would say watch Smallville, especially just watch the first season and the struggles that he has in the first season by himself. Like, it's insane. Are you familiar with Smallville at all?
Smallville was the first time I got hooked on a TV show. It was
really,
you're growing up, like, you go from that point of watching shows when you're younger, especially Saturday morning cartoons, where they're run out of order, things don't make sense.
Yeah,
X-Men, the original 97 run of X-Men was notorious for that.
Sorry, but yes,
yeah. But then you get to like you're older, you develop like some more critical thinking, some critical understanding of art, and then Smallville happens, and that's one of the scenes where no matter where I'm at, I'm like, okay, turn the TV on. It's time to it's time to make our appointment watching.
It's WB Tuesday. Wake up, guys.
Yeah.
Which is when the original day that it aired, and then they shifted it around years after within the schedule of WB. And then the WB became the CW, and then all these other things came out of it, which, by the way, let's not forget, without Smallville, there would never be an Arrow, The Flash, Legend of Tomorrow, all these other things that came after it, all these other shows. Never would. Supergirl, right? Superman and Lois. Never would have happened. Never would have happened if it were not for Smallville. So let's give respect to the pillars, the founding fathers, the foundation of DC live action television. I mean, yes, you had the Flash series in the 90s with John Wesley Shipp, which lasted 2 minutes, which, that was a bit of an inspiration there. There was, because obviously they paid tribute to that in the newest iteration of the Flash with Grant Gustin's run. But Smallville really brought superhero television to the forefront. I mean, there were shows that came before it. I mean, let's not forget, just a few short years before Smallville even came on the air, we had Lois and Clark with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. Let's not forget about that. And yes, a lot of us had crushes on Terry Hatcher, and we're not going to mistake that. But it was a good show, not just because she was good looking, but because the show was really good. Not just because it had attractive actors and actresses on the set. But yeah, dude, I totally respect your feelings about Superman. And obviously, you said it yourself. You're an X-Men fan, so you've seen all the X-Men movies, good and bad. You've seen all the good ones and the bad ones. You've seen them all, right?
Yeah.
What's your favorite X-Men movie? What's your favorite?
Oh man,
what do you think?
I feel like it either has to be. No, it can't even. I was gonna say X1, but even then, I feel like it has to be like Days of Future Past or
X2.
First Class. X2 is still good.
Oh, First Class. Yeah, I know which one you mean.
But I feel like First Class puts such emphasis on character writing.
Oh yeah,
we got a little bit in the first trilogy, but they kind of started. There are moments
lost
where
over it,
lost the track over on like the third plot of each movie.
Yeah,
third act. But First Class, and then going into Days of Future Past, especially where they spend so much time just building up several characters about there, and like we get a lot of development in the character of Mystique, which is. Raven Darkholm is such a deep character in the comics to actually have that be translated into movies. Great.
I didn't know that. I don't know much about Raven Dark. I mean, I've read a few X-Men comics here and there, but nothing really substantial featuring her character. I read X-Men House of M.
Sure.
But which is a great storyline, but that has a bummer ending. But it seems like a lot of the X-Men comics have bummer endings. But
they do. Like I said, like I love Superman because he's a breath of like fresh air and like breath and like the pinnacle of hope. But I still love. Don't be mistaken. I am on record as saying that I love the movie The Northman because it has a beautiful decapitation.
Oh wow!
So I still love some darkness and some hyper vibes now and then.
Jeez, man, why don't you tell us how you really feel? No, I'm kidding. No, but I understand that though. All right. Well, good choices because to me, I don't think we're. And by the way, I know MCU has the rights now. They're going to do something with the X-Men. They have plans for it. Obviously, we just saw X-Men 97. X-Men 97 was incredible. It was fantastic. Good. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with a part 2 because they ended on a huge cliffhanger with everyone being lost in time. So that's going to be interesting to find out what happens with those characters. But the other thing is Marvel's version of the MCU's version of the X-Men. I mean, I don't really have high hopes because it's very good. Here's my feeling, and this is just an opinion. I'm not stating this as a fact. I don't think anything's going to top Days of Future Past.
Right.
Nothing is going to top that because when you take 2 different generations of X-Men and put them in the same movie at the same time, with specifically Professor Xavier seeing both versions of himself in the same movie, in the same scene with 2 Oscar caliber actors.
Yes.
nothing's going to top that. I mean, Kevin Feige, I'm sure, has a plan because he's been planning this stuff for a long time. But Kevin, if you're watching this, which I know that you are, good luck, because nothing, in my opinion, is going to top Days of Future Past. Whether you're watching the theatrical cut or the Row cut, doesn't matter. I don't think anything's going to stop it. But he's going to try, right, Tim? I mean, Kevin's going to try.
I mean, yeah. That's the thing, is also finding an X-Men storyline. It's like, the thing about X-Men is that it's built in a way to always be topical, because that's just the nature by which it was created.
Well, yeah.
But finding a storyline that then translates well to the pacing of a movie, because I feel like that was the issue like Age of Apocalypse, X3, whatever happened to the Phoenix movie. It's a shame they never actually made it. But but I think they could potentially find a way in there, because we know that they're going to do Doomsday and Secret Wars, and you could do some multiverse bending there. And then my thought is either you inverse House of M, or you go straight into a more modern storyline like Utopia or something, where it's tightened up. It relies on you already knowing the Avengers, and again, it gives you room to learn the X-Men in that context.
Yeah, that's a valid point. That could happen. It's a very good possibility is what I'm trying to say. And the other thing is what I would like to see that we never got to see in the original run of the X-Men cinematic universe. I'm sorry, I know I call everything a sim, but I'm just so used to it.
That's what they are now.
It really is. So back in the olden times, they hinted at Mr. Sinister appearing in the original Fox X-Men, with Nathan Essex being mentioned at the end of one of the Wolverine movies, or X. I think it was like even X1 or whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, well, where's Mr. Sinister? I want to see that, because that is a messed up, twisted, psychotic man / mutant who wants to create his own race of mutants to do his bidding. That is extremely topical. So let's dive in. And Sinister's a dark character. So let's see, because X-Men has gone dark before. They've done it before. They've done it successfully in certain cases, sometimes not. But it's good material. But with Mr. Sinister, now that MCU owns the rights, with all due respect, they're probably going to dial it back, because they want to bring in more audience members, which I can understand why. But Mr. Sinister is such a fascinating, dark, gritty character, man. Yeah. So we'll see if they're going to do it or not. But here's another question. Who's going to be the voice or the motion capture for Mr. Sinister? Because there's a couple actors who could do it.
Yeah. Ooh.
There's a couple. Man. There's definitely a couple that can do it. I mean, Clive Owen, maybe?
Clive Owen is so good. Who was I thinking of just now?
Yeah, Clive Owen could be good. Who was it? Clive Owen's a good one. You have, I mean, gosh, man, there's so many good actors. I mean, was it Sean Bean? Maybe? I mean, Sean Bean's probably too old, but he'd be an interesting Sinister.
Sean Bean really good.
I'm a big fan of Sean Bean. So
trying to find, who is the correct jaw to hair ratio.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, but also
Willem Dafoe, maybe.
Ooh, I love a Willem Dafoe, although I think
because he's too identifiable with the Green Goblin.
You know Green Goblin. Also, I don't know if we've seen the last of Green Goblin.
Oh, that's right.
In theory, we have, but
no, you're right.
He loves that character, and you can tell.
Well, yeah.
My thought would be maybe someone I could see a Jude Law. I could see Kit Harington.
Oh my goodness. You know nothing, Jon Snow. No,
exactly.
Jon Snow is okay. I mean, yeah, he could put. I mean, here's another one for you. Once again, this actor is unfortunate. I think he might be too old for it, but Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be a menacing mother effer. You know what I'm saying? Have you seen, just in a voiceover performance? Have you seen the movie Phone Booth?
I have not, actually.
Okay, so Phone Booth is about a publicist who gets roped into taking a phone call in a phone booth in New York City, because this is where phone booths are still existing at this point. This is early 2000s, okay? So Joel Schumacher directed it, and you got Colin Farrell as the lead actor, Kiefer Sutherland as the voiceover guy who's talking to the other guy on the phone, and then you got Forrest Whitaker playing the cop trying to talk him down.
Okay.
So you got a really B, if not A-list cast, man. So if you've not, what's it called? If you've not seen Phone Booth, it is available to stream on Hulu right now. So I would strongly advise you to go back and watch that film. Just the voiceover performance of Kiefer Sutherland alone is one of the best voiceover performances I've ever seen. Which, by the way, for those who wonder why we're talking about Kiefer Sutherland, it's because it's Freewheeling Fridays, and we like to talk to all things pop culture. With our guest of honor here this week is Tim TK. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Tim, please let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. By the way, Amber has a question for you, Tim. She says,
Yes.
do you find snowboarding down in Oregon's Mount Hood harder or more easy than writing short stories? Question mark, wink emoji. I think she's trying to make a joke there. But does that help at all?
Yeah, I think writing the pre-write. The pre-write's easy. The
Mhm.
actual execution of the writing is harder.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I ideally do both in tandem, right? Because you can give your brain a break, hit up the mountain, get the endorphins going, go back down to the
Snowboarding.
cabin, get your writing done in the evening.
Snowboarding, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say writing is probably more taxing on the brain, although less likely chance of breaking the leg. So
Yeah, the worst we can do with writing is a paper cut.
yeah.
If you're writing on paper, but most of us write on computers nowadays. But great question, Amber. Madness Comic Network, aka Pop, says writing short stories is harder for me.
Yeah.
And then she's saying, haha, and then she mentions the actor Colin Farrell, and she says that Phone Booth is a great movie. Okay,
Yeah,
well, you might want to add that to your watch list there, Tim. Just throwing that out there.
I'll throw it on there.
What are some of your favorite comic book writers or artists?
Okay, it's gonna be like a super deep cut because they haven't done a whole lot. Their catalog is very short, but
It's okay.
I believe their name.
You can bring up names from the past or present. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Let me get them pulled up here. I'm not sure to get their name correctly. Because they're a Korean artist. They got pulled on because there you go. Yeah, the writer liked them. But they did a little bit. They did an X-Force. Their name is Rocky Kim. And they have a very unique way of doing line weight and kind of doing dynamicism in lines, going from having solid lines to sketch lines to action panels and kind of blowing all the lines out. It was one of those things where when you start rating, I'll pick up comics usually for the writer or because I like the character. But then if something happens where I'm suddenly taken aback by the art, it becomes a huge no for me. And so that's been something I have panels I've let run burned into my head. I must have grabbed this.
Gotcha.
This artist's name.
It's okay. It's probably a long list.
There's a couple. I'm keeping the two in my head, but being a writer, I usually keep writers' names in my head, and then artists kind of exist in the ether. But I want to shout out artists first because I think, someone's watching a show at home. It's more immediate reaction to see a panel of art and then pick that up later. But Ashley Wood, also Australian artist, also really interesting way of doing line and doing their layering. They did a Metal Gear Solid omnibus for IDW.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so if you like the stories of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, them and Chris O'Frisco worked together to create an omnibus, and it's very good.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Have to keep that in mind as we roll along, folks. 100% for sure. Any other names?
I'd say writer-wise, I'd have to go with, of course, Neil Gaiman.
Oh yeah.
James Tynion. And he just did so much for the art form. Chris Claremont, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Can't forget about him. Sorry. I got X-Men on the brain now because you just mentioned the name Claremont, and I hope to see him at one point. Get him to sign one of my books. Who knows?
That's all right. X-Men's always on my mind, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Because it's such a great bunch of characters, and it's so relative. I mean, even in today's world, it's so relative. And the other thing is, I don't know if for those of you maybe if you're familiar with X-Men, that's great. But if you're not familiar with the X-Men, here's a little bit of an analogy for you. So for people who, because this is relevant to classism, class warfare, being separated from society, all that kind of stuff, right? X-Men discusses that a lot. I think it's a big part of the reason why it's so popular, right? But one of the things I use X-Men for is an analogy to describe people who are diagnosed with autism and being different, and their brains being wired differently, and then being mistreated by society, because it's basically the same thing that the mutants go through in the first X-Men movie. I mean, literally, one of the not the opening scene of Magneto's childhood, which is what you see in X-Men, the original movie from 2000, but the Senate hearing with Jean Grey and Senator Kelly, if you remember that scene, is her saying people who have revealed themselves publicly as mutants have been met with fear, hostility, even violence, and that has happened to a lot of other individuals. in society, whether they're revealing themselves to be autistic, whether they're having, some other struggles that they're going through, and they're looking for help or they're looking for resources, and the other members of the human race don't want to provide those resources to them. So that's just me, right? I mean, I'm just being honest with you, Tim. I use X-Men as an analogy for autism. People can use it for whatever they want, but that's what I use it for. And when people hear that, it kind of clicks with them a lot more. So if you're ever in a class or you're working with a group of kids, a group of young adults, whatever it may be, and you want to explain how the X-Men is in a certain way, that's just a suggestion that I use. I mean, I'm sure you have other ideas about this, Tim. I mean, I don't know if you have an idea for that, but that's just how I go about it,
Yeah. I mean, like, definitely. There's a lot of other things you can use X-Men for, of course, and I think autism is definitely one of those, especially because even within, to get a little like deep in the sauce, there's also a lot of moments of inter-community strife that gets handled with the X-Men stories, kind of. That happens a lot with Cypher and kind of early New Mutants days, and you can kind of relate that to like even like in the neurodivergent community. Then you have people who are like still find ways to, instead of working in solidarity and support, find ways to then denigrate even within the community. The same thing happens within like other marginalized communities that X-Men have definitely been like purely used as algorithms for, even within the queer community. And I think kind of the core like conflict of the X-Men, whether it's the Brother Mutants, the Marauders, Exodus, there's always the kind of thing of, if you're in a community, how do you find that correct spot of where is our line of solidarity? Where is the side of extremism? Like, how do you negotiate all these complex thoughts, emotions, and societal dealings? Yeah, I think even like the autism one also just like hits really hard when you also look at things like the AVX Civil War and things like that. Where they start talking about the registry and like different things like that.
Yeah, or in a movie that came out some years ago, Captain America: Civil War with the Sokovia Accords. It's like, do we sign it? Do we not sign it? Do we agree to this? Do we not agree to this? And then what's the gray area there with that? You know what I mean? I think, and I did a rewatch of Captain America: Civil War not too long ago, and the points they bring up, they're pretty darn good. I mean, the way they handled that, I mean, in a 2.5-hour movie with like 30,000 characters, which a lot of people refer to it as Avengers 2.5.
Right.
Which it's okay. It is. It really is if you think about it. I mean, it is a Captain America movie at its core, but it's still an Avengers movie too. So it's like both of the same thing. So to have them do that and to balance that the way that they did, I mean, that's an MCU movie, and then they did it so well as a Fox X-Men movie with Days of Future Past. It's like, man, two different studios doing two different storylines, and they mastered them pretty darn well, at least adapting it into a live-action format. I mean, granted, you can always expand on this in the animated series, because in an animated series, you could just take it for however many episodes you want. It's like a creative. What am I trying to say here? It's more creative freedom than you would, because in a 2.5-hour movie, there's only so much you can flip and do.
Right.
So let's not argue that point in Hollywood. By the way, Amber says that everything we just said about using X-Men as an explanation for certain things, she says you're spot on, fellas.
Fantastic.
There you go. Thanks, Amber. Appreciate that. Appreciate your thoughts. And if anyone else has any thoughts on this too, please, by all means, let us know in the chat if you wish to speak on it. But
always outside of for validation.
Yeah, or something like that. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim TK, for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Outside of X-Men and Superman and maybe one or two other characters that we may have mentioned already, what are some of your favorite comic-based movies or TV series, past or present?
Ooh.
Anything at all.
Right.
Free reign.
This is where I get super weird and say old boy.
Insert Jeopardy theme here. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Anything on your mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, man, there's a couple. I think, okay, well, I'm going to be kind of cheating. That's the first thing that took my mind because I just like filed it on my shelf today. But the greatest comic book movie never made is Vandroid, which I don't know if this is something you've heard about, but it's
never heard of it.
Okay, there's a little bit of like street lore to it.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it was going to be made into a comic and then into a movie, and that was written by Tommy Lee Edwards.
Okay.
Kind of a weird dude, but
okay.
Originally, this was going to be, and then the movie never happened. The comic never happened, and like the treatment sat on his shelf for like years until he reached out to someone at Dark Horse, and was actually able to turn it into a comic. But it's about it's a love letter to the 80s. The character is a android that is made out of parts of a panel van, and it's the standard, insert big corporation / government force kidnaps lover, man dies, becomes a robot, has to go rescue. But everything in there is just chock full of like 80s nostalgia, clearly, because he gets put together with the parts of a airbrushed panel van. So that's
interesting.
That is, I love absurdism, so that is one thing that's always like sat with me. I'm trying to think of other things now because we've just been talking so much X-Men, and my brain kind of one-tracked onto that.
Oh, it's okay.
Thankfully, we have the technology of Google that I can look up.
I was going to say, there's a lot of good X-Men content out there, but there's also a lot of other good comic book content out there as well.
Yes. Let's see which ones that I have.
Interesting title, though.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not correct.
I wish I had some clever, lines here or some clever clips I could play to be like, "Hey, hey Pete, where's the beef?" Or, them walking into the shop and saying, "Time to make the donuts." It's I wish I had some kind of, what's the matter, James? No glib remark, no pity comeback. Sorry, that's a GoldenEye quote. But anyway, go ahead.
Of course, you got to go Sin City.
Oh, Frank Miller, man.
Absolutely.
That was a good movie, too.
Yeah. Scott Pilgrim, although I love the new animated show more than the movie now at this point.
No kidding.
Scott Pilgrim Blast Off.
Okay.
That's really good.
Fair enough.
Let's see here.
I didn't even know there was a Scott Pilgrim animated film out.
Yeah, I believe it's on Netflix, but they did like an animated show, and it's...
did not know that.
It's pretty good.
That's cool, though. I've heard certain things about it are pretty good. By the way, Philip Miller says, "I second what Amber said. Tim TK, I love absurdism." He's giving you clap. He's giving you applause. Yes. You see this? He's giving you clap and applause. So he loves absurdism just like you do. Oh,
Bulletproof Monk. That's a fun
my gosh, that was a Sean William Scott movie, man.
Yes, yeah. I mean, chow and fat. You can't go wrong with chow and fat.
Oh my goodness. Do you remember this? One of the things that stood out for that movie, because I've seen the movie. I haven't read the original source material, as you know, but in the movie he says, "This is, what is it, Los Angeles or wherever they are? We don't have enlightenment here. We have strip clubs, Las Vegas and HBO. You got it? No." And I'm like, "It's kind of what we got." Oh no, he says, "This is America." So yeah, we don't have enlightenment here, and that's Sean William Scott saying that. So it's like,
just hitting the nail on the head. And you guys, I'll round up the list by throwing a manga out here now that my brain is free from the X-Men loop.
Sure.
I'm going to throw out Alita Battle Angel.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I feel like I love the Ghost in the Shell treatment, but I feel like Alita Battle Angel is one of those things where it hit sort of this like sci-fi dystopian action sequence. With just also a lot of time spent on character, but also great sort of eye candy, but like in a weird way because the character is like massive alien bug eyes, but in the way that like the rest of the effects are treated and the way it's choreographed, that it made me want to go back and then actually engage more with the manga.
Okay. Okay. Nice. All right. Does that conclude your list of titles for today?
I'm sure there's a ton other. Like you said, like the problem I think also with having so many crates, bookshelves, and digital collections of comics is that you get to a point where your brain just starts like immediately chucking things into the archive.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you mean. Which hey, to each their own. Happens to some of us sometimes, and that's okay. But the good news is it is Freewheeling Friday, so we're going all over the map here for Tim TK's sake. Do not forget to like and share this with every person that you may know of. And if you're watching this live or what is known as a replay, thank you so much for doing so. And if you have any questions for Tim, let us know in the comments. Maybe it'll refresh his memory if you throw in those questions, fellas.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing that out there as a for instance. But outside of that, What made you decide to become an indie comic book, writer creator?
Man, weird journey. So originally I was going into software development. I've always liked, I've always liked reading comics and then also reading in general, and did some habitual writing kind of throughout early days, early 20s. And was going to go into school for software development though, because, naturally as comes with, for many others in the space, being a giant nerd, you also play a lot of games. And so a good way to get into coding is through software development. However, quickly realized that I absolutely despised discrete math. So instead, I switched my major over to creative writing and fell back in love with writing that way. I went to college in Florida at Full Sail, where I ended up meeting Roland, and it really sort of clicked in that class. I think he was my professor at the time, and I was writing short stories and actually having some success in getting them published. So I was like, I should continue on with this. Continued to do so until I moved back out to the West Coast, and eventually I worked with some different content farms doing the traditional like listicles blog thing before settling into a day job that was stable. And then Roland reached out to me and was like, putting the band back together and restarting Silverline, formerly known as the Malibu Comics before it got acquired. Essentially, a lot of the same talent moved over to Silverline when it relaunched. And wanted me to come on as a submissions editor, just to help out with, taking some bandwidth. And I said yes, and started writing my own treatments and things that I wanted to put out in the world. A few of them got picked up. I moved away from being a submissions editor, and then I've just been writing comics and throwing them out at people. Hopefully they read them for the last couple of years.
Oh, okay. I got you. Respect, man. Respect. It's okay. It's good stuff. What would you say are some of the rewards about being an indie comic writer?
You can write whatever you want. So obviously, I've made this joke before that if I get the chance to write on Marvel or write for the X-Men in particular, I don't care. Tell me what to write. I'll sell my soul for it just to have that credit. But being able to write with particular Wolf Hunter, it's a World War II spy story. And while that may have been like a thing you could do back in the day, especially like during the time of like when it was Detective Comics, that's not so much something you would find the big 2 or 3 necessary publishing. And so being able to then do my own story, my own way, and then have a little more say in the selection of artists to really get the feel and impact that I want, sort of, especially the colors. Martin Bertonen, who does the colors for Wolf Hunter, does like an absolute fantastic job. There's a lot more level of control and like sort of direction to their artistic vision, whereas I feel like Marvel is kind of the classic big production movie, right, where it's death by a thousand cuts, too many chefs in the kitchen. Whereas being an indie comic, I think, is kind of more so like you're hitting more so like I'm not comparing myself to him because I'm not, but the Robert Eggers, the sort of a more auteur type look at way of things, where even if you're not necessarily doing all the steps yourself, you're at least having direct say in all of them to make sure they're all aligned and there's that more cohesion all the way through, and everyone is kind of on board. Whereas no one's doing it just for a paycheck. People are doing it because they also want to tell this fun story.
Ah, gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, you have more control that way with indie comics than you would some of the bigger names out there. So I can understand that. Opposite side of the fence, though, what are some of the biggest challenges about being an indie comic writer?
Not having the funding or the resources to, with those big productions, they have enough resources to hit that once a month production cycle. Whereas in indie comics, I don't know if anyone in indie comics actually makes enough for it to be their full-time day job. Even my friends who have it be their full-time job still, like, run into issues where they need help covering gas to get from con to con because that's how they make their money. And because of that, you end up putting more tax on the time frame, so everything gets drawn out. So it may take, whereas like a Marvel comic, you're getting issues 1, 2, and 3, month to month to month. In indie comics, it may be a year between each one or a couple of years. And then another part of that is just marketing. And if anyone else is looking to get into making their own comic, or is in the process of making their own comic, or has made their own comic and is sitting like on $0 in the crowdfunder, I would behoove you to reach out to great people who run shows such as this, and get out of your cave and talk to people. Believe it or not, that we can't all be hermits. It's unfortunately we can't all be Alan Moore and just live in isolation and grow a fantastic beard. We have to go out and talk to people and tell them to buy our stuff.
Yeah, that is in the words of Morgan Freeman, he's right, but the other thing, thank you for saying that. I mean, I know we've only known each other for 2 minutes, more like 36 because I'm looking at the clock here. Yeah. But thanks for saying that I'm such a great host, and reach out to people such as this guy to be on his show and talk about your work or promote your upcoming works or whatever it may be. Thanks, man. That's nice. I'm patting myself on the back. Thanks. Appreciate you, Tim K. I've only known you for 36 minutes. Apparently, we're some potty cool here. So
Oh yeah.
In the words of, everyone says this, but there's a GIF on social media. I think it's DJ Khaled saying, "I appreciate you." So so thanks is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
But thank you, Tim TK for the shout out. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I with all due respect, I love podcasting. I love meeting new people every single week. That's the beauty of these shows, man. You get to meet new people every week. You get to hear their process, what they're passionate about, what they love doing, and I get to promote that for them in this span of the show and in the span of time that we're here on this virtual set. It's not like Tim TK and I are sitting in the same physical space. We're in two very different spaces, but we're able to communicate with each other across great distances. It's kind of like having Cerebro. See what I mean? Yes. There's an X-Men reference for you for tonight. Yes. Aside from my poor attempt at the theme song from earlier, but I digress. Any other pieces of advice you would give to aspiring writers out there?
Ooh, I'm going to keep it PG-13, but just do the dang thing. Don't wait for inspiration to strike, because inspiration is a fool's attempt at determination. The best thing you're going to be able to do is, was it Hemingway? I think it said a successful writer's diet is to read and write every day. And exactly that. If you can read in whatever medium that you're working in every day. So, I mean, I'm constantly reading comics. I have Marvel Unlimited and Comixology on my phone. So if I'm in the office, if I'm out at lunch or from the doctors, I'm reading comics in the lobby. I have stacks upon stacks that have yet to make it to the shelf next to my bed, because I do the thing where you stack up everything you're trying to get to next to your bed. So eventually you do read it, and then once it's completed, you throw it on the shelf. And then go and just write every day. And if you don't feel like you want to write or you can write, literally just throw hot garbage on the page. Type out whatever you can, and if it's only 100 words that you think are terrible, fantastic. That's 100 more words than you had yesterday. You can always go back, and I'm just going to layer this with references because originality is dead. As Neil Gaiman said, the art of writing is putting together a crappy first draft and then going back on the second draft and making it look like you knew what you're doing all along. So, throw together a bunch of crap on the page. If it's a pre-write, if it's scripting, whatever your writing process looks like, wherever you're at, do that. Go back to it later. And by that point, your taste and your skill will have leveled up beyond where you first put those words down. And you can go back and actually make it look like something that matches your skill for that day.
Good points, man. Man, you're earning some star points tonight. You're going to know the brownie points in this studio, pal. Great stuff, Tim TK, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I really do. And we're going to get to Pops Van Zant's questions for Madness Comment Network here in a moment, but I do want to address this comment that Amber just made. She says, that is great advice. I agree. You should just write and read every single day, like you were saying. Just write a paragraph, write a page. Great advice, says Amber. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go.
Yeah.
She's appreciating all the wisdom you're bestowing upon us. So let's get right into this here. Let's cut right to the chase. Madness Comment Network says, where did the idea for Wolf Hunter originate? Where did that start?
Having ADHD and spending too much time on Wikipedia.
Excuse me? Bacon
Yes.
powder? Really? You want to dive into that a little bit more for us?
So I'm a bit of a history nerd. Most people that I don't know if you ever played the Wikipedia game where it's you pull up a page and just click on the first hyperlink in each section and keep on going down the line to see where it goes.
No, I've never done this.
Okay, it's a fun time. I do it sometimes. And I was doing that in stuff related to World War II, and they came across the Tizard mission, which, if you're not familiar with your history, Tizard was a British scientist who helps with another scientist by the name of Bowen, created a device known as the magnetron, which later became known as compact or portable radar that you fit into a fighter plane, fit it onto a compact ship. Because back in the day, you had radar, but it was these massive antennas. Famously, one of the major issues for Britain in the early days of World War II was the blockade. You had the wolf packs, so we got the name for Wolf Hunter, of submarines that were blockading Britain and were sinking convoys that came over from the United States and Canada. So they couldn't get supplies in, they couldn't get supplies out, except by doing, rogue convoys or divert convoys that went all the way up to the Arctic Circle. So Bowen and Tizard developed a device that they would allow them to put radar onto planes, so planes could start detecting submarines. Among many other great things to use for, but that was kind of the immediate use case. However, this is more of a comedy of errors in real life. It's not, high stakes espionage on a train. In real life, Henry Bowen managed to lose the magnetron on the train from London to Liverpool, mostly due to a overzealous porter picking it up and then Bowen having to track him down and actually grab it. But imagine if that porter actually managed to lose the magnetron and somehow cost the war, because now the blockade stays on. There's no way of the RAF from breaking that. And nothing emboldens the Americans to then send a fleet stationed in Britain to La Noche. Sort of the stakes of the entire situation added in. My thought was, well, what if that porter wasn't just overzealous? What if they were some sort of devious intention? And I started looking into, what was a possibility, what was the realities of German spies in England during World War II. And according to best science, most recent science, and kind of breaking down communications that had happened at the time, it's still believed that there are about 6 or 8 German spies in different levels of British government, British operation, that went undetected for the duration of the war. And of course, Winston Churchill, well known for many things. One of the things he did was he created the Ministry of Ungentle Warfare, which you can see a movie about, starring Henry Cavill, that did stuff both overseas and in London. The group in London was known as Churchill's Secret Army, and they were the sort of spy hunters. And there's not a whole lot that's publicly known about them. So my thought was, we have all this secret history, all this stuff that's been intentionally mucked up and hidden, that I could start injecting storylines into that. And so I created the idea of a group captain who gets recruited by Churchill to be part of the secret army and begins doing counter-espionage at the time of the Tizard mission, and is assigned to escorting what is a very crucial piece of technology, which the government notoriously put very lax security around because they didn't want to draw attention to this. And so there's this kind of a lot of real life scenarios that allowed me to insert the idea of a spy stealing it, a spy hunter having to hunt them down, and it's already against the clock to catch them before they reach the end of the line, and the spy is able to exfiltrate with this piece of technology.
You know your history. Very good. This is some intriguing stuff, man. This is definitely thinking outside the box of a lot of the comics I've heard about over the years in my podcasting career. So this is unique stuff. So this is one of the covers for upcoming Wolf Hunter issue number 2, presented by you and your creative team over there. So what can audiences expect without giving too much away in Wolf Hunter issue number 2?
So this is Group Captain James Willard has his first face-to-face confrontation with the another intelligence operative he does not yet know is a German spy. But as the audience, we've learned he's a German spy in the first issue. However, we still don't know who they are. And I've said on other shows, and I'll say it again, as a writer, especially when working in espionage, as a writer, I'm not afraid to lie to the audience. So if you look at the cover, you have the fight scene. If you look at the promotional material, you see the dead body. Your job as the reader is then to detect where the lie is in this, because I've already there's already been, the spoiling moments have already been shown, but they're not where the spoilers are. And so it's this is where we enter into what I call the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy room full of liars part of the storyline, where it's the action has happened. We have our Tom Cruise moment at the start of the issue that leads into starting to learn about the people on this train, the people of Britain in World War II, and I try to use characters that would speak to every level of life that was in Britain at the time. We have someone who's a higher up aristocrat. You have a Romani refugee. Of course, Willard is there as the RAF spy hunter, and Bowen is a member of the intelligentsia, as well as part of the sort of working class that's been co-opted into the war effort, and Johannes de Jong, who is Afro-Dutch, who moved back to London at sort of the outbreak of the war to be with his family, and has very proud of the way that he operates his train, and sort of that adopted sense of patriotism that comes in there, as well as a few other characters. And there's of course there's a banker type character, kind of a writer, and a few others in this room that all speak to different parts of life. And again, as a writer, all these characters in this room are lying in some way, and then as a writer, I'm lying to you as the audience. And so it's going to be kind of a fun bit of having explanations, dialogue, world building happening, and then at the end, the rubber band snaps and tension is drawn into the room, but not in a way that might seem honest.
My goodness gracious! I mean, this is taking all sorts of twists and turns. I mean, this has got our brains going. And you mentioned the film, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare with Henry Cavill. That looks like I need to sit down and watch that movie now.
Yes, I mean, it's a very similar concept, which I think is kind of funny just with the timing, because obviously, there's the theory of zeitgeist, right? That collectively as a people, we just go through waves of group imaginations that happen, like the vampire craze, right? Yeah, things like that. Where I don't know if it's actually happened, but at least with two people, there was a secret history World War II zeitgeist that happened with the similar concept of a secret history being injected into real history with the same government office. So this is kind of funny, but it is a good movie. I recommend it.
Yeah, I have to check it out. By the way, Philip Miller says, Tim TK is a wise writer. I like what you said about inspiration. Being a fool's attempt to, well, I can't recall what the finish line was originally, but love the connection between Winston Churchill and your Spy Hunter title.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, his inspiration was a fool's version of determination.
There you go. So there you go, Philip. If you missed it earlier, we present it to you one more time. So there you go. You can check it out there for sure. And Philip's a big supporter of the show. So thank you, Philip. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, he's a good man, Charlie Brown. Sorry, there's another reference for you with going to a way back on a Flashback Friday. Once again, this is FreeWheeling Fridays. Let's not forget about that, ladies and gentlemen. With Tim TK, the guest of honor, do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, let us know in the comments. And if you're joining us live on the replay, thank you so much for doing that. With this intriguing title known as Wolf Hunter. And I thought playing the video game on PS2 Spy Hunter was a lot of fun back in the day. But Wolf Hunter seems like it's got more twists and turns than anything else I've heard of thus far in my podcasting career. Have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions or comic book signings, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Okay, what's the question again? Any stand-up memories from conventions?
Yeah, any special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Yes. It's actually interesting because little side fact about myself is I'm also a habitual cosplayer to the point where I have somehow managed to leverage that into actually getting postings at conventions. And I'm now also a press manager at Komoricon, so if you're ever in Portland and want to attend an anime convention, I can recommend one. That does also have room for comics in our artist alley, so feel free to apply. It's cheaper than Rose City Comic Con. So conventions are quite a big part of my life, especially these last couple of years. The one that is probably one of the weirdest things for me is when you just randomly find someone who's attached to something that you've done but not in that context, right? So me walking around cosplaying as Aizen from Bleach, and then finding someone who's oh, I read your book. And it's kind of have a moment where you have a race or real moment where you have several characters from different anime or whatever just sitting around talking about something you wrote years ago. So things like that are always fun whenever you have kind of those weird points of connection, because you realize the world is a big place, but it's a very connected place, especially now. So you're usually going to find streams of connection between every walk of life, every aspect of your life. You're going to find streams of connection between all of them and other people, and you'd be surprised who you are connected to. Another one is just always my favorite is the moments where a con slows down or it's a weird day and you have a break in life. Is it Tampa Bay or am I in Tampa Bay? Comic convention. Sold out my table. Didn't have anything else to do on the rest of the Sunday. So I went over and checked out some other booths. I got connected with the artist for Transformers at IDW at the time. And we just, sat and talked for the rest of the convention. There were people walking by tables and doing things. And we're just catching up on different things and getting to know each other. And I've been building a sense of camaraderie, which also if you're a young comic artist, go to a convention. You don't necessarily need to be there to promote your comic, but be there to make friends. Because those friends can potentially give you work in the future, or it's just nice to know people that have similar experiences to you. So there's points you can have relatable conversation, get connected with them on social media, and just kind of help build yourself a community of people that do the same thing you do. Yeah. So those are kind of been the moments that works out to me. If there's anything that's I can't think of anything that's shocking or bad that's happened at a convention, which I'm probably thankful for that. Yeah, I mean, another thing is a feeling of wearing fake colored contacts for all day. If you ever want to have the experience of having your eyes be air dried for 12 hours, that's probably the closest that I can give to that. And so that's a feeling you never forget. But outside of that, it's always just the good feelings of getting to know people.
Oh yeah, for sure. Man, I can't believe, I never would have guessed that you were a cosplayer, but that's the beauty of these shows. You never know what you're going to find. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So with that being said, I started cosplaying a couple of years ago, and I started cosplaying. Nice. The first one I ever did was Indiana Jones.
Nice.
So that was wild. And then I did Marty McFly 1985 from OG Back to the Future with the life preserver, by the way.
Yeah.
What's with the life preserver? Even though it's a vest, guys, it's a vest. Anyway, and we spoke about Smallville earlier. I've gone as Clark Kent from Smallville. I've worn the iconic red jacket and blue T-shirt that Tom Welling always wore.
Yeah.
On the later seasons of the show. I mean, he wore it during the early seasons, but they were still kind of experimenting with his wardrobe in the first 4 or 5 seasons. But like one season, like I think season 6 or 7 for sure, he was wearing nothing but red jackets and blue shirts in every scene he was in. I'm like, does this guy not have any more clothes? Like what, or has the budget gotten like cut in half on the show or something? Like, why can't they give this guy like a change of clothes like everyone else in the world? But anyway, listen. It's a small thing. It's nitpicky, but I digress.
There's a new costume director being like, we really want it to look like the suit. It has to look like the suit.
Yeah, so just put him in a red jacket and a blue T-shirt. It'll fool everybody. And yeah, no, it really didn't. Didn't fool Lois. But yeah, no. The red jacket, the blue shirt. I go on and say, I actually met Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum on a convention dressed as that because I waited 18 years to meet those guys.
Yeah.
And as for someone who loves Smallville and the character and going to conventions, and I've been doing it for over 12 years, brother. Meeting them was one of the best experiences of my life / career. I mean, Michael said I look good in the outfit. Tom and Michael signed my Smallville Funko Pops. They signed a season 5 poster, which is when I started watching the show, which is back in season 5. So I was late to the Smallville party, Tim, believe it or not. But I came at the right time in the right place in the right circumstances because it was the 100th episode, Reckoning. So if you haven't seen Reckoning in a while, go back and revisit it. Or if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the first 4 seasons and then work your way up to episode 100 because a pretty big pivotal moment happens there. Without getting into too many spoilers, because I've kind of spoiled it once or twice on this show and some other shows I've done. But if you don't want to know anything, just go and watch the show. That's all I'm going to say. By the way, Amber says, all great ones to do. Yep, the red jacket all the time. Ha, 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 ha. Easy budget. Yeah, easy budget they may have had on the show, or maybe something I've had in my wardrobe. I don't know. Pops Van Zant says Smallville was a great show. You're darn right it was, brother. Yeah, it was the cream that rises to the top. Oh, yeah. The cream of the crop. Anyway, sorry. I grew up watching pro wrestling as a kid, so
I still watch pro wrestling, yeah.
Oh, did you? Do you watch wrestling growing up?
I still do, yeah.
Wait a minute, you still watch wrestling today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, which promotions are you watching?
AEW when I get a chance, but WWE is just so much easier to get a hold of. So it's gotten a lot better since Vince left. Vince started the promotion, but Triple H is just such a genius when it comes to allowing the talent to create their own storylines and execute about them, but also knowing what will actually cause a pop.
Yeah, what the fans want.
Yeah. And so Triple H has just done a lot good for the business, allowing people to actually you no longer have those talents that guys kind of rise up and disappear overnight because Vince didn't like them personally.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame there. But yeah, no, wow, I didn't even know you were a pro wrestling fan. Who are some of your favorite pro wrestlers?
I mean, classics all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin, right?
The Texas Rattlesnake? Yeah.
Steen, of course.
It's showtime, folks. Yeah. Dude, his run in AEW, his retirement run was so good.
Especially him with Colby. Colby, I think, is such an exciting talent. I'm seeing his future is going to be exciting. Same with Orange Cassidy. I love Orange Cassidy just as I like him being as the gimmick that will sometimes get too serious.
Doing this. He's doing this every time. I'm like, what does that even mean? But whatever.
Let's say he's too lazy to put his thumb all the way up.
Yeah, he just does this with a pair of shades on. He looks like he's drunk off his rear end. But I'm just like, what the heck is this guy trying to prove? Yeah,
but his ability to his athletic ability and his storytelling. I mean, you can say what you like. Obviously, there's some storytelling issues with him, no selling certain finishes or whatever. But his ability to do all kind of the acrobatics that he does with his hands in his pockets is absurd. But also his ability to then create a character and develop that character, especially his current run as a Galactic champion, especially his storyline with Pac. I keep on calling him Neville, but Neville's his old name.
Oh, Neville, yeah.
But
any other names?
Yeah, CM Punk. I love him, and I've been a tribal chief. I've been a Stan since day one. I've loved Roman Reigns from Shield.
Wow.
Through his original solo run was a little at times, but Shield gave me enough buy-in that I was able to carry through until
Seth Rollins betrayed everybody.
Yeah, and we got into the wise man Paul Heyman and became
a Paul Heyman guy.
Arguably one of the best quasi heels since The Rock, like the ability to walk the line and be
is Roman.
Yeah, it's I've been enjoying quite a bit.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, they had that epic WrestleMania match between him and Cody. Cody finished the story, so you know. Absolutely. That was pretty cool. I mean, I wasn't following the storyline per se, but the hype leading up to that, and then Triple H going on record by saying it's the biggest and like best WrestleMania of all time. Like that's
two sold out nights back to back. Yeah,
that's a pretty big deal for a company that's been through a lot of backstage negativity and politics because of what happened with Vince and stuff. And granted, I think some of the skeletons in his closet have yet to be revealed.
Right.
Unfortunately, but man. Really messy what happened back there. And I think, and I know I'm not saying that Triple H had anything to do with it, but there's a little part of me that thinks Triple H knew some of the stuff that Vince was doing and he didn't report it to me a little bit. He kind of gives off that vibe just a little bit. But then again, listen, I'm just speculating. I don't have all the facts. I don't know what, like, maybe he had nothing. I mean, maybe he knew nothing about it. I don't think Triple H had anything to do with it because I don't think that's him per se. But then again, his relationship with China and the backstage politics that happened between him and Stephanie, like all that. There's some skeletons in the closet back there, but Triple H is calling the shots now, so I don't think. Let me put it to you this way: they're not going to be investigating Hunter as much as they're going to be investigating Vince right now. So
I think like obviously it's messy because he's married to Vince's daughter.
It's extremely messy,
but I think it says a lot that we all know the reason why CM Punk left the company in the fashion that he did, and the fact that he came back because Hunter reached out to him personally. I think that says a lot about what people behind the scenes see what Hunter's doing with the company and how he's cleaning things up.
Yeah, I would venture to say so. I mean, the company seems to be doing a pretty darn good run right now with WrestleMania being sold out 2 nights in a row. You got WWE just hit Netflix this week, within the last week or so, and that's causing a major. Rock made an appearance. Undertaker showed up, paying respects to Rhea Ripley for being the new women's world champion against. By the way, when I look at her, I don't see Liv Morgan. I see Harley Quinn. I see Harley Quinn. I mean, when you saw her in those jorts, those jean shorts, when she was turning around looking at the Dom one week, I'm like, ooh, that's some Harley Quinn right there. I'm just saying.
I will say, if you watch the Kurt run, did you see any of The Rock's final boss storyline leading into that matchup?
The Cody and Roman Reigns match?
Yeah,
because I thought it was pretty good. I mean, granted, he's coming out. I mean, he came out as Versace Rock in the Raw on Netflix premiere, which he really wasn't final boss. He was just being Dwayne, interacting with the crowd. Because people wrote in the comments, dude, bro forgot he's a heel.
Right.
I'm like, well, he kind of did because he's just having fun with the fans.
There. He's on the board, But I will say, if at any point anyone's ever done it, where I'll say similar, if people think Superman is boring, I'll probably think that WWE is fake, whereas you wouldn't call daytime television fake, right? WWE is just wrestling but live action and with a lot of baby oil. WWE is just comics with live action, a lot of baby oil.
It's
fair
the same
deal. It's characters leave, they come back, they change personalities, they get really weird gimmicks, and the writers like being absurd with them. They give The Rock 16-bit arcade music, and he's coming out talking about how he's going to beat Cody Rhodes into the last level.
Yeah. And then he's calling his family Mama Rhodes, and he's got the strap, the belt strap, like Hollywood Hogan used to carry around when he was rolling with the NWO and beating Cody. Yeah, so there was some good storytelling there. By the way, Geekmen Masters of the Thunder Nerd says, hey, how's it going, y'all? It's good to see you too, good sir. Hope everything's well in your neck of the woods. And feel free to check out his show, Geekmen Masters of the Thunder Nerds. There's an 80s reference right there. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Thundercats, ho! No, I'm sorry, I didn't grow up in that era. That was a little before my time.
Yeah.
But I do like to say the phrase, if something's going really good or I got something coming up I'm really excited about, I'll drop a He-Man reference on you. I have the power. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to say? I mean, Tim, with Wolf Hunter, you have the power. Because you do, man. This is your baby. This is your thing, and you're rocking and shocking it with all due respect. By the way, Woody says, hi, guys. I'm sorry I'm late to the party. Listen, Woody, with all due respect, man, you're right on time. Because it's better to be late than never show up at all. Isn't that right, Tim? So
absolutely. And the great thing about YouTube live streams is you can just move that cursor all the way to the back and watch the entire thing.
There's also that, and then when the show is over officially, then you can go back and watch what is known as the replay, which, by the way, here's a friendly neighborhood reminder. Do not forget to like and share this. If you're joining us live on the replay of FreeWheeling Fridays with the guest of honor, Tim TK of Silverline Comics, Thank you so much for doing so. And if you're watching us live on the replay, thanks. We appreciate every single one of you, whether it's one person or 500 or 5.5. I'm just sorry, 5.5. I don't know where that came from. I apologize. But still, is there anyone you're looking forward to meeting at conventions that you haven't met yet? Somewhere down the line. A couple of names.
Yeah. I've interacted with him like online, but I haven't actually had a chance to like interact with James Tinian. I think he'd be fun to like talk with, like, especially if I can grab him like late at night at Denny's after like a show. That'd be great. Tiny Howard is also like a mutual online that I'd like to actually like interact with her. So I think she'd be fun to meet. Same with Kara Underwood. She's a great artist. Her comic she did the Comixology original, which if you didn't know, that's also a whole thing you can do if you have the subscription, called Dot Self, and she was the artist on that, and it's really good. And so if you like sort of if you like weird cyberpunk brain transplant stuff or like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that's a good read. And if you like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you're my kind of people. So
yeah, no, I do. I saw that movie a couple years ago for the first time, and I thought it was great. You know, Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. You know, just they nailed it, man. So absolutely. I'm with you. That's a lot. There's a couple of people we've never seen before. That's an underrated film. That's kind of an under the radar film too. Yeah. But if you've never seen it or heard of it, check it out. It's about finding true love and how it can be, you know, taken from you or, you know, given back to you, that kind of stuff. Like it's a thought-provoking film is what I'm trying to say. So if you like thought-provoking films or mysteries kind of deal, or experimentation with stuff, check out the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with the man himself, JC, Jim Carrey at his dramatic peak, and Kate Winslet, one of her. I mean, she gives a good performance in pretty much everything she's ever done, even the lower tier stuff, that like the stuff she did when she was first starting out. Perfect example. There was a Disney film that came out back in the 90s that I'm a 90s kid, so I'll confess. I'm a bit young for some of you, but there was a film called A Kid in King Arthur's Court. And Kate Winslet plays one of the fair ladies in the, you know, King Arthur's Court, you know, timeline in that film. And not only that, a young, barely recognizable, up-and-coming Daniel Craig as James Bond was in that movie with Kate Winslet, okay? So think about that. You get an Oscar-winning actress, and you get Daniel Craig, who's been one of the better iterations of James Bond we've ever had, in the same movie at the same time when they were just youngins, okay? So it also starred Thomas Ian Nicholas from the American Pie franchise and one of the greatest baseball movies ever made, Rookie of the Year. So if you're a 90s kid and you want to go back and watch some of the films that are kind of, I mean, by the way, I did a rewatch of A Kid at King Arthur's Court not too long ago, Tim. It's not very good. Yeah. Things are better when you're a kid, but when you're an adult and you see how cheesy, over the top, or just how bad they are, yeah, A Kid in King Arthur's Court isn't very good. But to see the appearances by Kate Winslet and Daniel Craig are pretty cool. So, Tim, if you want to learn your movie education, feel free to go back and look that film up on Disney Plus. # not a sponsor of this show. But I apologize. I just have to say it. But yeah, it's amazing stuff, man. I'm not going to lie. So if your series Wolf Hunter was going to be adapted into a live action or animated television series, who would you cast in the roles? Oh, actually, I'm so glad you asked this because I just sent my colleague and fellow Silverline alum, Cassisi, Cassisi Harris, a list because this was a conversation we had. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we're thinking along the same lines here, folks. So what do you got in mind? Let me grab this here. Grab that email. Let's share a very piece of private information with the fans out there. Let's get into this if you're willing to. Where did this go? The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last. Right. As Willy Wonka would say. Where's Roland when you need him? No, I'm just kidding. Which chat we put this in. We have a couple. We missed you, Roland. You're the man. Really? Such a nice feller, that Roland man. Right? Mm-hmm. No, he is. And by the way, you know, his catchphrase is always nice. Make my Silverline. You know, he's got that way about him. Got that voice. Okay, here we go. Where is that chat? Where is the fantasy wheel of who we're going to cast in these iconic roles? Okay. Captain James Willard. I have Charlie Hunnam. Okay. Yeah, lesser known actor, but has the right sort of dramaticism, and I think also he just kind of matches the physical presentation I want with the character. Being
like athletic but not big. Lenny James from Walking Dead as Johannes. Another great dramatic performance. I think underrated as an actor. I think his ability to kind of carry those supporting dramatic roles is really well. Not to typecast, but Daniel Bruhl as Ludolf. Daniel Bruhl, of course, played Baron Zemo. When it comes to sort of German spies and all that fun stuff, I think he hears it quite well. Michael Sheen is Henry Bowen, mostly because I felt like the role really needed a fast-talking Welshman to be accurate. So, Natalie Dormer as our sort of upper-class aristocrat Elizabeth. Florence Pugh as Darcy, who is our Romani refugee. That's kind of all the leads. I didn't really get into casting many of the background supports, but that's my list of cast that I've theory crafted.
Wow, those are some big Hollywood A-listers, man. I hope Hollywood can throw out the dough for that, which they can, because Hollywood likes to make things called money. Yeah. So, that would be that's a good casting list. Who's going to direct this picture?
Ooh.
Who do you want in the director's chair? You want a, Robert Rodriguez, maybe a Guy Ritchie or a Zack Snyder coming in there? Or?
Guy Ritchie would be good, but I think, what's her name? Well, I Google quite a bit. I'm terrible with names. Thomas Alfredson, who did the film adaptation of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh, yeah.
And the original book for that is an inspiration for my idea of
course, yeah,
sort of turning the story into more of a canned story where it's you have liars in a room and someone is trying to suss out who the liar is.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you really want to go crazy, you could say, hey, let's get the guy from the movie Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Let's get Gary Oldman to direct this thing.
Yeah, true. He is a good director.
Yeah. Oh, he has directed stuff in the past?
I believe he's done like a few like stage things.
Oh, okay.
And so like his ability.
He's capable.
Yeah, he's capable. Yeah,
he's capable. Yeah, he's got. I mean, he's been around the block a couple years, so he's been around for many decades. And Gary Oldman's one of the best protagonists. Let's just say character actors in the history of Hollywood. So I'll give credit where credit's. I mean, he played a great Commissioner Gordon, right? I mean, he rocked it in the Dark Knight trilogy back then, and then he also did. He was in what was it called? The Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He was the antagonist for that. He did a good job in that, right? So, and he didn't mean to be the antagonist. It just sort of happened. Right. So I thought that was, I thought that was interesting. Just saying. But no, that's some good stuff, man. Florence Pugh and Natalie Dormer in the same movie, two of the most beautiful women in Hollywood right now. Whoo, baby. That would light up your screen. I wouldn't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Florence Pugh's got some big stuff coming out because she's the new quote unquote white. I prefer to call her White Widow and not Black Widow. But maybe there's a copyright there with DC. I don't know.
Right.
But she's going to be the new Black Widow allegedly, whatever. But she's going to be in Thunderbolts. You excited to see her in Thunderbolts?
I am. Actually, I feel like part of it was due to I think the writing team, because at the end of Infinity War, right? At the end of the cycle, they recycled the writing team, and then they got pitched. You guys are going to write Kane, which, if you are not familiar with Kane, I think that's an incredibly difficult villain and arc to set up. And I think,
character.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see where things kind of struggled and not knowing how do you build up a guy who does and does not exist at any given time, and in the continuation. He will win because he's destined to do so because he is the conqueror. However, he will prevent himself from winning in the end, and that's the danger that still does it.
Wow. Well, I don't know why they just didn't throw him out and go with Galactus, but whatever.
Honestly,
a lot of people have been championing that too over the years. It's like, when are we going to see Galactus in the MCU?
I think Galactus is also a hard one, but I mean, at least you have a little more straightforward of a threat to write.
That's true, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, honestly, going with Doom now, they should have done Doom, I think, straight after Infinity War, but at least Doom is a good villain. He has a lot of personality, a lot of ways to write him, and you don't have to deal with weird as much weird timey-wimey stuff as they do with Kang. But yeah, so I think Thunderbolts and kind of having this moment of pivoting for the MCU is what I'm going at. This is going to be a good pivot, and I'm excited to see where they go from that. I like the cast. I've always liked the Thunderbolts. Sentry is one of my favorite Marvel characters. And so I doubt we're going to get comic level Sentry. And it'd be really funny if we just get Bob until the third act and then become Sentry. But yeah, I'm hopeful. If they pull it off, this may be like a make or break moment for it, but I'm hopeful.
Okay, fair enough, man. Yeah. Fair enough. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. I mean, I'm not very big on them recasting Doom with the same actor who just died in Endgame, for Pete's sake. I think that was a bad move on so many different levels, but some people are cheering for it. And I'm like, what movie are you watching? Because I don't see this. I don't see him as Dr. Von Doom at all. But, you know, hey, you could. I mean, granted, they can't bring back Julian McMahon because that was a different time and a different iteration. But at least he pulled it off. So.
My thought would be, honestly, like, I would take a perfect Doom casting would be Mads Mikkelsen. But if we're not getting that
would have been nice.
Yeah,
I loved him, man.
Yeah, I think
great actor.
What we might be doing is combining the infamous Iron Man and Superior Iron Man storylines
from the comics. Yes.
Yeah. And
people said that he was like this in a certain run of the comics. I'm like, yeah, but what works in the comic doesn't need to be translated to the big screen, guys.
I think that's also why the Infinity Cycle did so well, is because like it's comic inspired, but it's not a 1-to-1 with how things are written. Because like comics, you're given a certain level of cheese you can just kind of get away with, but also pacing is much different.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I'm not big on the casting of RDJ as Von Doom, but whatever. To each their own. I'm probably not going to watch it because I'm not a fan of the casting, really, to be honest. Right. I mean, I wish the Fantastic Four, that cast, the movie that's coming out not too long from now, like I wish them all the best. I really do, but I'm just kind of over the MCU, man. Like I'm done. Like when Endgame happened, I'm just kind of like, okay, we've had our run. It was a good time. We had some great moments, some good movies, some great movies, some not so good movies. Thor 2, Iron Man 2, Thor 3. It's just there were some bad ones in the bunch. But then again, that's with every franchise. Nothing's going to be perfect 1,000% of the time. I mean, look, people make the argument and say, well, the original Star Wars trilogy is all 3 great movies. I'm like, yeah, but even so, I have a hard time watching Return of the Jedi and watching these little teddy bears beat up on stormtroopers. Like, I don't see that. That doesn't make any sense.
Especially because you know that the Ewoks were created because when the producers came to George, like, we need to make something we can market to kids as a toy.
Yeah, we can't, because originally it was going to be the Wookiees.
Yeah.
Beating on the troopers. I'm like, okay, well, that works. But they're like, nah, we need something to appeal to the little ones. So let's just make them little teddy bears. And I'm like, dude, what?
At least we did get 2 great Ewok movies out of that.
Tim, why did you have to bring that up? No one talks about that. First of all, no one talks about the Ewok spin-off movies, and the second thing is no one likes to talk about the Star Wars Christmas special. So let's not talk about that, man, because those things never happened. A lot of to me, first of all, I didn't even bother watching those because people told me how terrible they were, and the other thing was, and by the way, listen, these films have come to gain a lot more respect and a lot more of an audience in the last 20 years than when they originally came out. But still, the prequel trilogy, no. Like, just no, okay? The original trilogy is gold because we all know this. That kind of goes without saying, right? Whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, the original trilogy is the gold standard. The other thing is, in this newest era of Star Wars, really the only things that have worked for me, personally, I can't speak for everybody, Tim, but Force Awakens, Rogue One, and then when it comes to streaming television, I like Rebels, okay? I like Rebels, which is animated, that's fine. But really, the only good thing we've gotten from this new era of Star Wars in terms of streaming series live action is Mandalorian. That's the only good show we've ever gotten. Everything else has been mixed to negative results across the board. Yeah. For me, I know a lot of people hold Andor in high regard because they're saying that's the best Star Wars streaming series we've had of all time thus far. But I'm like, that show was a slow-moving burn and a slow-burn slog fest for me. If you want something that goes at a good pace and puts in little sprinkles of old school Star Wars, mixing it in with new school Star Wars, give me Mandalorian all day, son.
Yeah. So, Clone Wars is I like the Clone Wars quite a bit.
And that's another, like, I went around, I finally got around to watching a lot of selected, not all of the seasons back to back, mind you, but I watched a curated list of like the best of the Clone Wars when Ahsoka was coming out. Yeah. Because they were Ahsoka heavy episodes, and watching all of those from Clone Wars seasons 1 through I think it's 7, those were darn good.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you know what you're doing in animation for the most part. You know what you're doing with Mandalorian, but everything else is like, huh? What are you doing? And I haven't seen this new show yet, which is called Skeleton Crew. I haven't seen it yet.
I like it quite a bit. It's kids on bikes. It's a kids on bikes take on Star Wars.
It's basically Goonies.
It's Goonies, and I think that it hits a nice break from kind of what we've been given. I liked Ahsoka, but there are certain episodes of Ahsoka which did not work, and
they were slow.
It relied heavily on the antagonists. But if they made a show just about the antagonists, I think it would have been a little bit better. But it's still pretty decent. I would give it like a 3.5 out of 5, maybe.
Oh, okay. See, that's how I rank my shows on a scale. I do movies 1 to 10, but in TV series I go 1 to 5. That's funny you mentioned that. See, you and I are on the same boat to a certain degree. When it comes to Ahsoka, I probably would have given it like 1, maybe 2, because it was slow moving in a lot of scenes. And then the other thing was, for me, it just certain things just didn't make sense because it was a little. Unless you've seen all 7 seasons of Clone Wars, you're not going to understand a gosh darn thing that's going on in Ahsoka. Yeah. And if you haven't seen all 4 seasons of Rebels, you're not going to understand one thing going on in Ahsoka. See, I've seen all the seasons of Rebels, but I haven't seen everything of Clone Wars, and I think that's one of the reasons why I couldn't follow along with the show very much. Sure. And the other thing that I didn't like was it's just certain things. The pacing was off. The writing was in certain situations was bad. And one last thing, one of the best things about this show, I think the greatest thing about the show, and unfortunately we no longer have this person with us. Ray Stevenson as Baylan Skoll was freaking phenomenal. Yeah. Every time he spoke, you're listening and hanging on to every single word that he's saying. But then, unfortunately, as you may or may not be aware of, Ray Stevenson is no longer with us, and now I'm hearing a rumor that they're going to cast an actor from Game of Thrones and one of his good friends to be the replacement and be the new Baylan Skoll. I think his name is it Nolan something? I can't remember the gentleman's name.
It's the individual who played the Hound.
I forget the actor's name.
Yeah, which I have mixed feelings on, but the fact that they picked it because he has a personal connection to the actor, I think, at least like give some goodwill. But I think they probably should have found some way just
write him off.
Write him off, yeah.
Because Ray, you're never gonna. Ray was so good, man. He every speech he gave, and by the way, this is on a T-shirt, and hopefully one of these days I can buy this shirt. Impatience for victory guarantees defeat. Yeah. When he dropped that on his apprentice, I forget. I think it's Shin or Shinto, whatever. Shin. Yeah. Okay. When he said that to her, I'm like, damn, this guy's good. Yeah. This guy's good. Like, where's the TV series on just him?
Right. I would have preferred if it was a movie of Baylan and Shin hunting for Thrawn.
Oh, I would have loved that.
Still get the idea of like Thrawn with the
Ghost Army,
with the Ghost Army and the witches, because that's like the cool mystical side of Star Wars that
no one ever talks about really.
But I'm like usually for like media, I give it like a pass fail. I sometimes I'll score it like point, but like I'll carry it on like did I have fun while I was like engaging with the media? Like did I have fun while I was watching it or reading it? And the second point is there some part of it that stuck with me that I remember afterwards? So if it meets both those things, where like I had fun watching it and there's something that stuck with me, like, okay, pass. Whatever. It may not be like the greatest thing, but at least it's something like I'll go back and think about. But like the Ahsoka parts, I don't remember like hardly anything with her, but I remember a lot of Thrawn stuff, remember a lot of Baylan stuff. And a lot of the Disney stuff is failing on sort of the sticking points. It's like, oh, this is kind of like fun eye candy, but it feels like candy. There's not a whole lot of sticky substance. There's not a whole lot of meat to hold you over.
Exactly.
And being an OG Star Wars fan, like I have the Bane books right behind me. But like my thought was like,
tell us how you really feel.
If we originally went and did the Heir to the Empire storyline as the sequel trilogy, that would have made much more sense, and then we could set that up with Baylan hunting down Thrawn, setting up the Heir to the Empire. That would have been
neat. I would have liked to. I mean, that's another thing that bothered me about Ahsoka. They say it in the trailer. We're hunting for Thrawn as heir to the Empire. And I'm like, oh, that's the Timothy Zahn storyline. Where's that? And we never got it.
Right. Yeah.
It's a TV show called Ahsoka that mentions literally the title of one of the biggest titles in Star Wars history when it comes to the books, anyway.
Yeah.
And it's called Heir to the Empire, which is a trilogy that was written by Timothy Zahn, which I have here on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
I just haven't read it yet, Tim. I'm sorry to say.
Oh,
It's on my, believe me, it's on my to read list, brother. It's there. It's sitting there.
I will say, even if you don't read the rest of the
Heir to the Empire
Disney
trilogy.
books,
Yeah.
like read the Heir to the Empire trilogy, but buy the other Timothy Zahn books too. The Thrawn prequel and the Thrawn sequel.
I've heard
two Thrawn prequels. It's an ancient prequel and then a modern prequel. And then
no, I have it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have one of them. Yeah.
Because they let them write them as if they're disconnected from the modern Disney canon.
Got it.
So they still will, like, there's mentions of some stuff that happens in Rebels, but I mean, Rebels is probably one of the best things to come out of the Disney source. So
that's true. I'll give you that because I've seen all 4 seasons, so I know.
Yeah. So they allow Thrawn to still exist. It's like you get new content that would fall into the Legends timeline leading into Heir to the Empire and then Red Empire and all this other stuff.
All right, I have to keep it. Like I said, that my TBR list is pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's like 6 miles deep, brother. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it either.
I'm right there with you.
If you look at this bookshelf I got behind me, outside of my virtual background we have here on set, it's pretty bad. Yeah. I got a storage tote, small storage tote full of books. It says Ryan's books to be read as labeled on the box. Like it literally says it. Yeah. And then I got these books that are fiction, crime fiction, sort of more or less. And I'm just, it's bad. But hey, the good news is I hope some of these ideas or feelings you have about Wolf Hunter come to fruition, whether it's being at live action casting or maybe some voiceover casting for an animated series featuring Wolf Hunter. I don't know. I hope it does happen for you, but I do want to take this opportunity. And by the way, when it comes to Star Wars, we can talk about it all day long. Now, I haven't seen Skeleton Crew yet. I'm going to wait for the last episode to drop, and then I'm going to binge watch it.
There you go.
And then I think we're going to do an episode on an anti-quote channel called The Nerdy Cantina, where we specifically discuss all things Star Wars. And we're going to do an overview of Skeleton Crew as a series/season.
Okay.
Probably, if I don't do it next weekend, I may do it the week after, just to give myself a little bit of time. I don't know. It depends. I may have to do it next weekend, so it's fresh in my mind, but we'll see. So stay tuned. You may see something on Saturday, the 18th, I want to say, of January, featuring Skeleton Crew. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, and if Tim has watched all 8 episodes and he wants to join us on that panel, then we may have to have Tim TK on with us. So,
okay.
I mean, if you're interested, I'm not going to, I don't want to make you do something you don't want to do, but if you want to be on with us, Tim, I can send you a DM and we could talk numbers.
Stay in touch, yeah.
All right, we'll stay in touch. It sounds like a great idea. Well, you know what else sounds like a great idea? Saying thank you to the one and only Tim TK for being our guest on this episode of FreeWheeling Fridays. Tim, you are a gentleman. You're a scholar. You're a diehard Superman fan. You appreciate Star Wars for what it is, good and bad. And I respect you. And in the words of our friend DJ Khaled, we appreciate you. So, Tim, it was great to see you. We wish you nothing but success with your comic book series with Wolf Hunter, more specifically Wolf Hunter. Let's talk about that. And a few other things you got going on. So if someone wants to know more about you or purchase a copy of Wolf Hunter and some of the other things you got going on, where can they follow you on social media, Tim?
Nope, they can follow me on my Blue Sky, which can be seen right next to my name on the edge of the screen there. I'm there quite often. You can also find me at Tim TK Writer on Instagram and Twitch if you are interested in watching me play a lot of Marvel Rivals and Final Fantasy XIV. If you want to buy Wolf Hunter, you can go to fundmycomic.com. The pre-orders for issue number 2 are currently up, and I believe they should be on the front page. If they're not, just type in /Wolf Hunter or search for Wolf Hunter. And if you want to buy the first issue, you can either add it on to your pre-order of number 2, or you can go to fundmycomic.com/Silverline and buy it in the shop.
That is a great idea. So, Tim, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be talking to you again here very shortly, so stick around. Don't go anywhere, my young friend, because we have a few things we'd like to share with you here momentarily. My name is Ryan of Anti-Quote Channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram personally at RyanRPM5. Feel free to follow us across all forms of social media at Anti-Quote Channel for my YouTube channel. That's where we discuss movies, TV series, comic books. We have similar interviews like FreeWheeling Fridays. You can find the FreeWheeling Fridays playlist on there. But you can also find it here, which is currently streaming on the Madness Comic Network. Ooh, yeah. And thank you so much for being a part of this, Tim. Really, really appreciate it. And Amber says, all of this is awesome, Tim. So in other words, Amber is happy for you, Tim. She's happy for you. And she's congratulating you on all your success. So booyah. Tim TK, you're the man, dude. You're the man. You know, and we talked about this earlier. And by the way, Pops just said to me, thanks, Ryan. This was a great show. Well, I guess I get to keep my job for another week. Pops, here on FreeWheeling Fridays, which is a part of the Madness Comic Network. So make sure you check out myself, some of the other things I got going on the And I Quote channel. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers here in 2025. Help us reach that number. Once we do, we're going through a great big live stream celebration that will include returning favorites. Tim TK is more than welcome to come back. And we're going to have special giveaways that you, or the incredible viewer/subscriber, is going to be eligible to win. And we also have merch. We got hoodies, we got shirts, we got stickers that you can add to your water bottles or your travel accessories. We got coffee mugs, stationery, all that kind of stuff. A couple of throw pillows, a TV news reporter. What do you think? Raphael, what are you doing? Sorry, that's a quote from TMNT 1990. I apologize, Tim. I don't know if you're familiar with TMNT or not, but it's only been around for over 40 years. The movie's been around for 35 years, which turns 35 later this year. What's up, Boston Nova? Just throwing that out there. But all that stuff is on sale right now. You can find the links for our merch in my bios and our social media bios. We're on Facebook, Instagram, the whole nine. All the links can be found in my bio on Instagram at RyanRPM5 or on and I Quote channel more specifically. So do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified of when our videos go up or they go live. And thank you for joining us on FreeWheeling Fridays as a part of the Madness Comic Network. And speaking of which, the Madness Comic Network has a great lineup of shows featuring different topics, different personalities that you, the person who may be watching or listening to this right now, are going to be interested in. So enjoy yourself. We hope to see you back here on FreeWheeling Fridays, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. more specifically, Eastern Standard Time. It's a late show. So enjoy it and take a look at the lineup of great content on the Madness Comic Network for you.
On the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens day.